Now this is Carrie from China.
Carrie from China.
From China.
Okay,
Wow.
Victoria says great that you could join. Very nice. From China. What do you got back there behind you? X-Motos.
Well, X Motos, which is a local factory here, 250 NC Zhongshan motor. I have my Ducati Street Fighter right here. And I have another model, which is called FKM. It's sold in Europe through, and it's 200cc little scrambler. Then stateside, I got a Triumph 955 Sprint and a DR 650.
Okay, so what are you doing in China? How this is interesting. You have all these bikes. You're speaking perfect English. Why China?
Actually, I test and review a lot of motorcycles, and I act as a consultant. So I pretty much ride motorcycles over here and test them. So I'm a consultant for FKM, other companies. So just trying to refine the product and do a lot of QC work.
Very interesting. That's a cool
great.
job to have. Yeah. So the Chinese bike that you have back there, it looks like, is that a dirt bike or is that like a dual sport or something?
Yeah. So this one here is basically very similar to a KTM clone, but with the Honda 250 water cooled. The motor is actually from Zhongshan, which is Chongqing Motor Company. They've been making motors pretty much in Asia for, I'd say 30, 40 years.
Okay.
You know, they're pretty much, if you see a motorcycle, I mean, motorcycles are life here. I mean, they're tools.
Yeah.
So pretty durable, as long as the only problem you ever run into is Loctite. They tend to have a lack of it here. So I buy a lot of my own.
Do they vibrate more than do they vibrate more than other brands, or what's the problem with, or like, do they vibrate themselves?
Actually, these motors are really smooth.
The
motors are really smooth and they're really durable. Long service intervals. They just are heavy compared to the Japanese counterparts. So they tend to be a little bit heavier material, a little thicker. And I find that a lot of it is based on, you know, they use a design, like this was actually a motor that was really a Honda from 30 years ago. So the old XR, or before XR went water cooled, is when this was the original motor up. So a lot of times they'll buy the tooling from Japan and they'll just make the motor. So the same with this one here. That one is it's actually an old 200 Yamaha 200 motor that the tooling was purchased. So when these Japanese companies get rid of their old tooling, a lot of the Chinese factories and motor factories will buy that tooling up.
Now, when you say tooling, is that like plans for the motor, or what is that exactly?
So a lot of times all the way down to the molds.
Oh, okay.
So everything from the molds, the piston forms, the crankshafts, everything that they have, they'll sell those old motors off, and then especially the old XR motors. I can get those old XR motors, which were pretty much bulletproof.
Yeah.
Complete plans and all the tools to build those. So a lot of if you look at the SWM, SWM has actually a really good XR 400 motor, the SWM 500, the 6-days. You know, it's an Italian brand, but it's motors made in China through the old XR platform.
SWM.
So, but my dog.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if we're getting anyone else in. What time is it?
It's almost 10.
7:04.
Almost 10 a.m.
10:04.
It's 10 in China, 10 in the morning.
Yeah, morning time here. I already did my morning meetings. So I was like, okay, I got some time. I can do this.
Well, last time I think we started out with like 4 people and then other people joined, but who knows? If anything, we got the perfect company here. I would say
Yeah.
let's actually the idea for this meeting was from a gentleman. His name is Billy Wayne, and he's a older gentleman. I don't know. He was supposed to come in, but it was his idea. He was in the previous 2 meetings. Also, he's actually also was a tester and a racer for motorcycles. He's had like hundreds of bikes go through him. He used to take them apart and test everything, put them back together. So very interesting guy. And during the last meeting, he says, he brought up this idea to do a Zoom meeting about a story that a motorcycle story that really stuck in your memory. Like, even if it's bad or good, usually the bad really stick. Like you really remember the bad. But I have a pretty pretty bad story. But usually that's what. But either one works. And I would say whatever. There's not too many of us, so however long, and I would guess I
Comes down
can.
to it, right?
What's that?
It comes down to it's an adventure no matter where you put it. So, I mean, we've all pushed bikes along way too far.
Yes, a little too far. And so I guess I'll just go ahead and start with it, and we can get it going, our little 21st century bike house meeting here. So
Yeah.
okay, so this was in Roswell, New Mexico. And when Billy Wayne mentioned this, I was I was like, well, do I have a motorcycle story? I'm like, oh yes, I do. It popped into my mind right away is when I twisted both of my ankles in Roswell, New Mexico. So it was a TTR Yamaha. I don't remember if it was 125 or 250, medium to a smaller bike. I think I was about 11 years old, and kind of taught myself a lesson that day for the rest of my life, that I need to kind of do a little more research before I do something. So that's something I want the viewers to also take from this story. Is it's a really good idea to do as much research as you can beforehand. I'm the type of person that just dives in right away, usually into stuff, and I thought, you would think something like that would kind of solve that problem, but no, it just anyway. So I was riding it. My parents were the type of parents, they didn't care. They just, and I love them for that, because they didn't shelter me like people do these days. They shelter their kids, and then when they go into the real world, they just don't know what to do. They're like, oh my god, everyone's attacking me. So I'm actually very grateful for my family that didn't do that to me. I wanted that motorcycle, they got it for me, and that's it. I put on my sneakers, I put on my shorts, got on the bike, and I went 30 minutes away from the city. In Roswell, New Mexico, just a little outside of the city, it's just a beautiful riding places. I mean, it's a desert, there's jumps, all sorts of stuff. So I went out there. I didn't even have a cell phone back then. It was like 20 years
Right.
ago. No internet, nothing. You just you just go out in the desert. I was by myself, and I really didn't think it through. I didn't even know that you're supposed to have some kind of special shoes, some kind of protect. I didn't know this. Like I said, there wasn't really internet to where you do research, you watch YouTube. There wasn't there wasn't anything like that. I guess I should have probably got a magazine or something about dirt bikes, but I just cranked it up, went in the desert, and started to try to jump that thing. It was going good, you know. It was the thing is it was a pretty steep jump, and then it was a plateau. So I was doing it in first gear, you know, getting a little air. I was out there for hours doing it. I mean, I was just really trying to get that thing to fly. And then I was doing it in second gear, so a little faster. You get a little more speed, a little more air. And, you know, I didn't feel threatened at all. I'm like, well, I got to keep trying to go higher. You know, this feels good. Did it in third gear, and I was already getting some real air there. And it didn't, you know, the landing didn't really hurt or anything like that. It was, you know, I would kind of land, and it wasn't, it was flat. So like it was kind of hitting hard because I was landing and then going forward a little bit. So there, if it was kind of an incline or something, I think it would have spread out more, like the strike would kind of spread out more, but it was already in third gear, already kind of, you could feel it. Like, I mean, it was hitting hard when it was landing. And then I just, my last jump, I said, okay, I'm going to do a real big jump before I go home. I hit that thing in fourth gear. I don't know how high it was. I mean, I got some really crazy air. And the stupid thing is when I came down, I just came flat like that. And for some reason, I don't know what happened. I didn't, you know, spread the strike out. I didn't keep rolling for some reason. And I just landed and twisted both of my ankles. And then I'm sitting there on the bike. I didn't fall or anything. I kind of like landed and it just twisted the ankles and then kind of rolled a little bit further away. But and then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, shit, this really hurts. And I understand that if the bike dies, I can't start it again because like my ankle, I can't really, when I'm going to the left, to the right, you know, and it really hurts when you put your foot down. I mean, both ankles are twisted, like it's just unbearable. So I understand that I need to put this thing in first gear somehow, and I'm trying to do it with my foot, but I can't even put that enough pressure on it. It's just unbearable pain. So I reached down with my hand and I put it in first gear, and just so I can basically sit on the bike and just put it home in first gear. And I knew that if for any reason the bike died, I don't really know what I would do. I mean, there's nobody around for like miles. I wouldn't be able to start it because it's a kickstart, and that thing kind of had trouble starting. But I guess I got lucky, and I putted it home with two sprained ankles. I think it was like an hour-long ride. It was 30 minutes that way, but I think back it was maybe an hour and a half. It was a really long putt along. And then remember I got home, kind of fell over into the grass, and then just laid there until somebody got home. But yeah, that's the one story that kind of that I remember from my youth, and I guess I need to remember it more to teach myself. Yeah, somebody else joined. Ted. Admit. Hey Ted, how you doing? Can you hear us? Is the first time Ted is using Zoom, Victoria is saying, so maybe some technical difficulties, but I'll finish off the story. But that was about it there. That's what I remember, like it was yesterday. I remember the pain. I remember hitting it in fourth gear and flying. But let's move on to whoever else is ready to tell a story that they really remembered, a motorcycle story that really stuck with them.
I can go if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then, yeah, I just wrote a story for the long distance cruiser. So that was the, what's the name of your wife? Is it Claudia?
Victoria.
Victoria, yeah. She asked me to, if, you know, the theme was going to be what you remember and how you started riding or what made the biggest impression on your riding. And so I've been thinking, I've been riding for 46 years, summer and winter in Canada, in the snow, in the ice, every kind of condition that you can imagine. And so, I've ridden a lot, and so it was pretty hard. But I was thinking, and what really one of the best stories, it was one of my first long rides. I just started riding when I was 20. It was June 20, and I had a few spills, broke my collarbone that first summer, had the whole summer off with pay. I worked in a pulp mill, so it was pretty cool. Had the whole summer off, and did a lot of riding. And then that winter, I rode the winter. Is Vancouver Island is wet and cold, and for the most part, you can ride in most conditions. And I had a 500 Honda 4, 1972, 500 Honda 4, a green one. And that spring, I worked shift work. We worked seven graveyards, 7 afternoons, and 7 day shifts. And they rotated the day shifts from Monday to Friday. You'd get 1 day off during that week on day shift. And I had a Friday off. So I decided, and I'm a lot like you, I just do things on a whim, and away I went on a Friday, and I decided to visit my uncle in Calgary. So I caught the ferry, and I rode, and all I had was I just had my sleeping bag, that's all, and my coat. That's all the stuff I got, nothing else. But I was 21, so at 21, you can do anything, it doesn't matter. So I rode and caught the ferry, and rode up through the Fraser Valley to Hope. And Hope, they filmed the First Blood with what's his name? That guy. I can't think. Sylvester Stallone. First Blood was filmed in Hope, Canada. Anyway, so and I rode from Hope to Princeton, and that in I think it was 65. I have to look at my notes, but they had a slide there, and 4 people were killed. They only found 2 of them. It was a big slide, like the whole half the mountain come down. And so I rode through there, Princeton, and then through Penticton, and then it was early in the season, so there wasn't any fruit, but Penticton has lots of fruit in the summertime, peaches and cherries and apples and all kinds of fruit. And from there, I slowly headed north, and eventually I made it to Revelstoke. And I remember I just parked. It was dark. I parked, and there was some grass, and I just laid down and went to sleep. And I woke up in the morning, and there was a little kid looking at me. And I said, hello. And he said, oh, my mom wants to know if you want to have some coffee. And so I said, sure, I love coffee. So I went and visited her, and for hours, and I like to talk. And and I like meeting people. I like people. And I talked to her, and we talked, and I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember that I felt that she was really lonely. There, her husband, I don't know if she was divorced. I think she was, and she had a couple of kids, and but anyway, at about 11 o'clock, I said, I gotta go. So from there, I rode up through Rogers Pass, and before Rogers Pass, there used to be another pass there called the Big Bend. And I remember being with my parents. Over the Big Bend was a really bad road, like rock and everything. And they had a Henry J. I don't know if anybody knows about a Henry J, but it was an American car distributor, and a Henry J. They weren't the best cars. So anyway, I remember it broke down on the Big Bend. And I don't, it's just these things that kind of come to my mind when I was traveling Rogers Pass. The things you think about when you're traveling on a bike, your mind goes everywhere. Anyway, I finally made it to my uncle's house, and I spent Sunday there. And then the next day, Monday, I left Monday at 8 in the morning. My uncle led me down south of Calgary, and I caught. I can't remember. I have to look at my notes, but I caught the road south of there. I can't remember all the names. Let me see here. I'll come up with it. Let's see. Highway 2 south, and the BC2, and then that headed south. And then I didn't have a map, And sometimes I'm not the best at, I'm good at finding things, but sometimes I'm just stubborn. I just keep riding sometimes and thinking, okay, something will show up. Well, I went there kind of a little bit east, but still heading south. I went through the border and there was no trouble back, no passports. It was wonderful. No cops, hardly no radar. I just, the little 500 do at 6,000, it do 80 miles an hour and a smooth engine, right? So you don't even think you're pushing it hard, but I mean, it's probably working hard. Anyway, through the border, headed south into, I think it was Cut Bank. Anyway, I headed east on Cut Bank instead of west because I didn't have a map. And so after doing about 60 miles the wrong way, and finally I saw a sign that said Highway 2 East. Well, I went, that's got to be wrong. I'm heading the wrong way. So I turned around, headed the other way. So anyway, I drove all that day and finally I made it to St. Mary. And in St. Mary, it was May, but the weather was beautiful. I mean, I was so lucky. And we not a cloud in the sky since I left Nanaimo. It was beautiful. And I rode through the going to the sun in Montana, and they just cleared the road, just cleared it. And I remember the snowbanks were like 20 feet on either side. They were just piled straight up. It was like I was riding through a corridor of white, but the road was dry, absolutely dry, just a little wet on the sides. And it was absolutely unimaginable. That ride just sticks with me like I couldn't believe. Anyway, and then
John, what bike did you say this was on?
My 504, my first bike.
504?
What Honda 4.
Honda 4, okay. I'm just
yeah. Yeah. And so then red line was 9,200. Anyway, but so most of the day I was doing about 6,000 RPM. So, and then I come to, I can't remember, another little town. And I remember the kids were playing, all, the sun shining, and kids, and I remember they all dressed really nice, clothes clean. And I just remember sitting there and I thought, wow, this is life, this is life. I just went through probably the most spectacular moment of my life so far. Yeah. I'm just looking at these kids playing and they're free and they're just enjoying life, they don't have a worry in the world. And I felt exactly the same way, Anyway, from there I rode on with Lewis and Clark, thinking about those two explorers heading west and what they were thinking and what they were doing while they were blazing a trail through the wilderness for the first time, And eventually I went up through the border again, and I went up as far as Creston, and then from Creston to Salmo is a beautiful pass, really nice. But there was so much livestock on the ground, like elk, deer, you name it, So I slowed right down. I remember thinking, holy shit, this place is really packed with animals. I slowed right down to about 50 because, these guys, if there's one, there's more. And there was way more. And if one jumps, they all seem to want to jump. I know how deer act and animals, they're unpredictable. And so anyway, I finally ended up in Castlegar. I think Castlegar, I can't remember, somewhere around there. And I got a motel and drank some warm American beer. I hate warm American beer. It doesn't have any punch. Canadian beer's got punch. So then I had to work the next day. So the next day I rode 883 miles that day. And that was a long day. That was the most I've ever ridden. And I've ridden, 650s a few times on my Ducati with stock and on my Moto Guzzi with the stock seat. And that's rough. The Sport 1100 stock seat is hard as a rock. It's terrible. And it's still the same seat, but anyway, I like my Guzzi, and it's a sweetheart of a bike, even though it doesn't do anything spectacularly well. It just always makes me feel good. And I still have it. I've had it 25 years. And so anyway, and then the next day I got up early and I'm riding and I'm thinking, fuck, there's something wrong with my chain. The chain's bad, thinking I lubed it up in Nanaimo. I didn't know much about maintenance, and it was just about hanging on the ground and all stretched to hell. But anyway, I stopped at a bike shop, sprayed some lube on it, adjusted it up, and away I went. And I was able to make the graveyard shift Tuesday night. But that ride set the tone for me. That ride said, hey, I'm hooked for life. This is it. I'm into biking. I'm into touring, especially, and long rides and stuff. And so that was my thing. I've had 28 motorcycle accidents. I broke my back. I broke my legs. Broke my shoulders. I used to race. You know, I've had 29 bikes. The little Italica was number 29. And I got a DR 652. I call it my workhorse. I rode it down to bottom of Mexico and back. It's a great bike.
I'll never.
Yeah, you know, it's a great bike. It's a great bike. I love it. You know, I've had lots of crashes. I'm sore. My knees are shot. My ankles are shot from all the crashes and stuff. But I still ride. I can ride, and I love to ride. And I'll keep riding until as long as I can. That's for sure. Yeah. So anyway, that's my story, and that's why I ride today. I'm still riding, probably because of that day. But that definitely helped. You know, I'll tell you a little story about that Honda. I run that Honda pretty hard that day, you know. And you know, when I changed the oil, now, you know, the oil come out orange. I've never seen that. That oil was so screwed and fucked over, it came out orange. It was toast, you know. And I remember the big thing then was the oil cooler. So I put a Hayden oil cooler on it, you know. And my DR's got an oil cooler, and I got a GT 1000 Ducati, and it's got an oil cooler. I like simple bikes. I don't need no shit like my son's Hayabusa, you know. I wouldn't want that bike down here. You know, there's no way I'd want that bike down here.
Yeah.
There's more potholes here than you see on the worst roads ever in the United States or Canada. There's potholes everywhere. There's manhole covers that are, you know, a foot down. So you don't want anything like a Ducati here. That's for sure. It's just, you know, it doesn't make sense. You want a dual sport.
Yeah.
Dual sport's perfect for here, you know, and my DR was good.
John,
It was here for 4 years. I had my DR in Mexico for 4 years. It was great.
Just to recap that trip that you talked about, how long ago, or how long that trip was, and how many miles?
It was about 2,000 miles total.
2,000 miles. Okay.
Yeah.
And this was back in what year?
1974.
1974. Yeah, very interesting.
1974. Yeah, that was. There was no radar. Cops were kind of friendly. They didn't just shoot you and then ask questions like they do now. You know, you might have a mental condition. I think I'll shoot you. You know, I'm not going to get into that. That's not good. But anyway, and you know, and there was no radar, and there was no border crossing bullshit. There was no passports, and it was a wonderful time. I liked the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Good. I like doing drugs then. You know, I like to do some drugs and stuff. So I don't do that anymore, but it was good then. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story. I posted it in a long distance cruisers on the forum. So
okay, perfect.
a little bit more detailed, you know, because I could think, you know. So.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, and that was very interesting to listen to. And somebody else wants to take over?
Sure. I mean, I know exactly where the feeling is there. I mean, sometimes you turn a corner and there's like the perfect light, and you've got the perfect, you know, view. You've got the perfect, you know, everything just kind of comes together. You're just on your bike. I mean, we've had this experience. All of us have had this experience. It's the reason why it's actually addictive. You just kind of sit there and says, oh my gosh, I'm at this point right now. Can it get any better? You know, and you always go look for that again, you know, especially with the adventure riding. You know, for me, I've done pretty much rides all up and down the West Coast of the US over to Utah. I've done, you know, the BDRs. I've done just the coastal 101s. You know, I've had amazing rides down Washington coast, Oregon coast, linking into California. That's just, you know, perfect. My probably one was my very first real adventure in Asia, which was through Vietnam. And it was one of those ones, it's like, hey, you know, I have nothing going on this weekend. I don't really have anything going on next week. I didn't really think about it. I was like, well, I'm going to go rent a bike a new company that rented off CRF 250Ls. They're basically brand new. You could rent them for basically $35 a day, and this was probably 5 years ago. And it was my first real Asia trip. I've had short ones, but real Asia. And I just went out and says, okay, I'm going to go to northern Vietnam from Hanoi. I'm going to go farther up north to the border, to the China border. And it turned into an overnight to, riding along the mountain all the way down through the inner mountain trails, connecting parts of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, end up the whole length of Vietnam at the end of it, because I just had no plan. And I was riding through the front, or the mountain range up there becomes kind of barren, open rock, single track trails for hundreds of miles. And you ride into a village where the only entrance into the village is bike. There's no car road, and you get just kids on both sides just wanting to high five the whole way down. So it's like you go in, and at the end of the day, you end up you find a village, and so you just find a place to rent. A lot of times it's a homestead, and they just say, here's a room, do you want dinner? And for about, it's usually about 15-20 bucks, you get yourself food, place to stay, and you could actually go on, wake up the next morning, they got breakfast for you, fresh bananas or some coffee, then head on down through the next part. And Vietnam is actually one of the biggest coffee growing areas in the world. So I started going to the plantations, and just while I was writing down, just visiting different plantations and staying in their facilities as I was doing it. It ended up being about 10 days. And there's not one point that I would sit there and say, this was like the defining moment of the whole trip, because the whole trip ended up being that moment. You're up in the mountains, you see stuff that, you just sit there and go, wow, or who was that? And you come around these points, these high mountain peaks up there on a Honda, a bullet Honda. You got this single track trail that you could see it go for miles down the hillside, all the way down to the valley where there'll be rice paddies and everything else. And there's cattle, there's other people on motorcycles. It's the only transportation, and it's just such a feeling of like, where is this? How could I ever get back here? Because it's never going to be the first time again. And I've gone through Thailand that way, and I've done other ones, but the Vietnam one Vietnam is such a bike culture and such a tourist of motorcycles. You could rent motorcycles of any kind. You could ride the whole lengths. There's tour guides that tour you through. It was just doing it solo was such a absolute just mind opener, and the roads are all friendly to bikes. There's a lot, especially when you get down into, Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, or Hanoi. There's a lot of bikes on the road, and it's kind of like mindless traffic. But there's just nothing quite like the way it rides. I was in traffic where there's at a stoplight of 300 bikes sitting at a stoplight. And it was like we were a moving amoeba, just kind of conglomerating around. And it's like, oh, I got to turn here. You just start going across, and everybody just moves around you. You don't think about it. You just go. And up in the mountains, when you need to pass somebody or somebody's going the opposite direction, they end up just kind of coming past you. You don't even like, oh, I better get off to the side. No, it just happens. It's such a weird feeling compared to being in the States for all my life. I've been riding motorcycles for, I couldn't tell you, it's been probably 28 years now. And, I raced and did everything, but moving over here with this culture that is a tool, not just like a luxury item. It's a whole nother riding experience. It's just completely different. and just these views, because I mean, I've seen some amazing views in the US, especially doing all the different tours, and from diamond cap wilderness, eagle cap wilderness areas through the North Highway, the Cascades, absolutely gorgeous. It's just that change. And here I'm doing it in December, which was, of course, at that time, I'm like thinking, well, hell, this is wintertime. Summertime is pouring down rain, but wintertime is gorgeous. So that's really was kind of like the change. And I started looking at others, and now I've got a plan to ride through Mongolia as soon as the border opens up. I've done Thailand. I've done Laos. I've done the three. So I've done Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam again. I've done the Philippines. I've got a goal to go ride the Outback in Australia, or do a long tour through there, probably the next year or so. Most of the time I've done them solo. I've done the ride fully solo. I don't speak the languages. I use my phone a lot. Download the app and just translate through it as I go. It's like, why even bother? And I'm hoping for those earbuds that do automatic translation one day, because I don't care. I don't want to speak the language. It's just too much work. I'd rather go ride. The trip through Mongolia, which we're hoping will be this summer, is 21 days. And it's there's actually a group of us that will be doing it. And it's hut by hut. So we basically will ride off-road all the way through. And we'll stop in huts, actually like designated huts that are just empty in the middle of nowhere. So that's the goal. And it's supposedly, fuel-wise, there's stops that they sell bottles of fuel. So you can just get a plastic jug or water jug of fuel in these certain stops. So because there's no trucks out there.
Yeah.
So they just haul them in by or car. So I'm looking forward to that this summer. So, but the Vietnam one was kind of like, okay, yeah, there's a bigger way to do it. And we're, when we do trips like that, we might even be doing 200 miles in a day at the max, because most of the trails are way too slow to go. We might even only 100 if it's really rocky. The Vietnam, it was total end up being 1,000, I think 1,140 something miles through the whole length. So, and I end up all the way down to beaches.
So I'm gonna definitely follow your page. I'm gonna watch that. If you're gonna post some pictures and videos, please do.
I don't post a lot because being I live in China, it's not easy to post.
Oh,
so
really?
I get some. Facebook is banned.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't post a lot.
Wow. Okay.
I would post it. It's usually like, hey, I've done something big. So
Wow. So, but how did Victoria find you on Facebook? Or
I can access Facebook through an outside server, not exactly legal.
Oh, it's actually illegal in China. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But because I deal with a lot of foreign companies buying through China, I have to use that sort of server system.
Yeah.
So Zoom, I'm having to use that special software.
Like a VPN changer or something, right? Yeah.
Change
Yeah, I got a VPN on mine too. Changes the IP address.
But
Yeah.
I'm in Mexico too, and close to Mexico City, so I know what it's like when bikes are tools. Because here, every bike, the bikes here are just all delivery bikes. They're all working bikes, or family. It's the family vehicle, right? You got 3 or 4 people on the bike.
Just on top of them.
But in Mexico, there's no problem with Facebook, right?
No, there's no problem. They're not a communist country. China's communist. So,
yeah, they do control them.
Oh yeah.
Well, when you were talking about the 300 bike, I've spent a lot of time in Palermo. I didn't ride out there. We were in cars, but that reminded me of Palermo. There's just swarms of bikes that'll surround you at a stoplight. That was,
Yeah.
it's an interesting experience to watch them. The funny thing is we've spent a lot of time there the past 7 years. Maybe I've been there like, I don't know, 20 times, and we've never seen them crash. That's the really strange part. Like they ride crazy, they're all over the place, but they don't crash over there. Or maybe they do, but we don't see it.
Yeah.
But that's,
Well, I see it every now and then. I've seen them, but I mean, I've seen like 125cc bikes hauling a full cow
yeah.
on the back, you know, and the guy basically sitting on the gas tank, and he's maneuvering through traffic with no problem.
Those are the true riders, the true bikers. If you can transport a cow.
Oh yeah, they drape it over the seat. I mean, it's like partially dragging a little bit, but you know, he's got to get it to the butcher, right? It's like, you know, that's how they do it, you know. Or, you know, in China here, we see them with basically a full chicken delivery coop on the back, or a full pig, something like that. It's like, I'm like, the skills. I mean, I struggle. I throw on a couple 100 pounds of weight, and I'm like, God, this is just a bike is a tank. It doesn't really want to move. These guys are maneuvering around like stoppies, and you know, they don't even think about it.
Tell me one thing: is Telegram, the Telegram app, is it also not allowed in China, or Telegram is?
I haven't really tried it. If it's any sort of messaging or any sort of stuff like that, it's bad.
Oh wow!
You know, state channels.
So I really want to see your trip, man. I really want to see your Mongolia trip.
Well,
We'll
the
figure
only
out
problem
some way.
I'll be posting. There'll be like self-service posting.
Mm-hmm.
So, because self up there is spotty.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
same way we did ride in the Gobi Desert last year, or year before, because last year everything was shit. It was the cell phone sound, it just was spotty. So you're just sitting there like, okay, yeah, there's no live action today. So, but now that technology is getting better and better, I've actually been playing with more, because really I'm not a technology guy. I use a cell phone and I use a computer, but most everything is writing and welding and
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, looks like you froze up there. Yeah, maybe lost service. Well,
One of my favorites, moto countries.
there we go. It came back. You froze up there for a while. You came back now. Okay.
Yeah, Vietnam's probably my favorite moto country, I would say, in the world, just because the tourism's built around motorcycle riding.
Mm-hmm.
Even, I mean, go there, they rent scooters, but really the big bikes are available. So,
and you know, after we listen to the fourth monologue, I actually want to ask you guys all about a certain bike, what your thoughts are on a certain bike that I'm really looking into getting here in the next few days. It's a sport touring bike. But Ted, if you're ready, we'd love to hear your story, your motorcycle story that stuck with you in your memory. So if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I don't, it's really cool to listen to these other stories, because I really don't per se have travels like most of the other people do. I started writing fairly early, but I had a lot of years where I didn't write at all, simply because I was young, dumb, and we had a lot of power here in urban Chicago, in the area. A lot of my friends were dying and getting hurt, and staying off of motorcycles was probably one of the best things for me, even though I didn't know it and didn't want it and didn't like it. But I started at age 14. I've always been a tall kid, and I'm the youngest of five. My oldest brother, he had a motorcycle. It was a Honda SL 350, which was, basically a street legal Honda dual purpose type of thing. And it was, I remember, unbelievable. It was orange, yeah, which I have two orange bikes today, which is kind of weird, but it just happened that way. So being 9 years old, I think it was like 9 or 10, I tried to ride it, and I could flat foot it on the ground because I was tall enough, but I couldn't get the hang of, clutch and brake type of thing. So when I dumped the clutch, so I dumped the bike in the backyard, and all my brother's friends thought, oh, that was, really funny type of thing. So I just kind of, pushed it off for the time. But at age 14, the time that I remember the most is like my brother at that point had it was a Honda 550, which is a CB, probably I want to say somewhere around 74 to 76. And so he sat on the back while I learned to clutch and brake and stalled it 100,000 times type of thing. And he was brave and everything, and we just I learned how to ride, and it was kind of a cool experience in the heat of of the midsummer, just learning how to brake and clutch and move around. But so as I say, I never really had a bike a lot of years, and I've always wanted one, and it just kind of I shouldn't be type of thing, because I was on snowmobiles and I got my adrenaline rush that way. And then so kind of fast forward on to after I had a family and my wife and a couple of kids, and I've always had that longing to be on two wheels, because I just always loved two wheels. I was just always fascinated by being on, and the wind in the face type of thing. And so I figured, hey, what, the day would come, and so it did. We were talking about getting on a bike type of thing. So the time came, I bought a '83 Nighthawk 650, which was fairly light, was nimble, quick type of thing. wasn't brutally fast, but it was fun to learn how to ride. So we got around on a couple of years type of thing, just to kind of get back into the hang of it for me, clutching and braking. Because there were some summers where I was on my own, and guys would just say, hey, you know what, you want to buy my motorcycle? I was like, no, I don't think I should type of thing. But, oh, you know what, go ride it. Oh, just keep it at your house for a while. So so there were some summers where I had different motorcycles at my house, and that was kind of a cool thing. But it just, for some reason, just we never worked out any deals or anything. But anyways, so getting back to when I actually got a bike, so learning how to be safe on a motorcycle type of thing, in which in the area that I live in, of course, like I said, through the years, I've had a lot of people that got hurt and actually didn't survive. So that's always been one of the things in the back of my mind is those type of things. So I respect power and that sort of type of thing. And after a couple of years, I being a 650, and it's just like, okay, so enough with the learner bike. And I bought a 2004 Honda VTX 1300, which is a good cruiser bike type of thing. And so the wife and I, we pretty much whenever we could on Saturday, Sundays type of thing, would just cruise around. We'd go into, across Illinois type of thing. And one of the funner rides that one of the more fun rides that we've had was cruising into southern Wisconsin. And we like to do that a lot, because being in the Chicagoland urban area, obviously we're close to a couple of borders, and one of them Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is kind of a hilly country. And so we like to go up through there, Lake Geneva and different things, and see some of the scenery through there. But so one particular fall, we were just going out for a day and just cruising around, and we're going through the back roads of Wisconsin. Just kind of, I knew where I was, but we're kind of getting lost type of thing. And me being the navigator that I am, I never admitted to being lost. But so we're going down a road, and we see, and we're at the top of this hill, and I see this large animal. I'm like, what in the world's going on? It looks like this big old cow is in the road. And I'm like, wow, it's kind of weird, and as we got close, there's a farmer with this big old cow trying to shoo him off of the road. And it was in this driveway and just standing there. It was kind of one of the cool things we've ever saw. But and it was just one of those types of things that just kind of stuck in your mind. But through the years, those type of rides and things we have. Again, we just have done day rides. I'm not like some of the other guys, which is really cool. They've gone for days and weeks on ends, but with our young family type of thing, we do day rides, and someday we'd like to do a couple of different rides and maybe go a couple, take some overnighters type of thing. But obviously, on the bucket list for me is to, I now have a Triumph Tiger 1050S, which is a sport touring type of thing, and I'd someday like to ride the tail of the dragon, as we all in the States, that's like the place to go type of thing. So that's on the list. That's on the bucket list type of thing, and hopefully, Lord willing, before my journey's end, I'll be able to do that. But that's kind of like just a slice of me and my motorcycle story. As a side note, I am a Motorcycle Safety Foundation instructor. That's kind of like my side job. That's going to be my retirement gig here in the next few years. When I'm done working full time, I will hopefully that just kind of be the thing that I do. So I love teaching others to ride and getting them going type of thing. And it's always cool to see that type of thing when people learn to ride and they go, oh wow, this is really cool, And one of the things they find out is that, this is why dogs stick their head out of the window of an moving car, type of thing. So that's me. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And let me add a little bit. So what you're saying about I've spoken to a lot of instructors in the past few weeks, and they're all saying that a lot of people are getting into motorcycle riding because of the COVID thing. They're thinking like, they're getting the understanding of, hey, everything is dangerous. Before they were afraid of bikes because they're dangerous, but now they're like, I can go into a supermarket and die from a disease. I'm gonna go get a motorcycle and at least die on a motorcycle. So at least have fun while I die. So that's
right. Choose something fun. If you're gonna die, at least choose something that's fun doing it, right?
Yeah,
and obviously being the first day of spring is like, I haven't seen any classes yet. My first class is in a couple of weeks here, but yeah, that's a good point. And the thing about it is like, if people understand that, the realities behind that, and I, the whole COVID thing has changed the way everything handles, the way we do things, and I get it, but it's kind of a strange thing, and I hope people aren't doing it for that reason, right? Just saying, oh, before it's too late type of thing.
Well, but on the other hand, it's actually an interesting thing that in some ways it opened up people's eyes, the people that were sheltered a lot or tried to shelter themselves from different scary things or dangerous things. And it's kind of opened their horizon. There was a book that I read, it's called Anti-Fragility. I believe that's how it was called. And it was, the guy talked about how it's actually really good to go, like life throws these different hard things at society so that it becomes stronger. And to tell you the truth, it's I think it's a good thing. When tough things are thrown at people, I think personally it's a good thing because it makes them stronger, makes them look differently at different things, kind of open up their minds a little bit. But
absolutely,
guys, yeah. I want to ask you guys about this bike, okay? Because what do you guys think about the Kawasaki versus I think it's called 650? Because
Dude,
I'm really
it's funny you should ask that, because I bought my Tiger 1050 last year, and the Versus I had my sights set on so bad. I tried buying one of those, either the 650 or the 1000 version.
Yeah,
that actually was higher on my list, because my top of the list was Yamaha FJR. And then it was kind of went down from there, which Kawasaki Versus was the next one. And that's, if you can find one that's maybe a year or two old, it's a great value. Those things are great bikes, everything. And if you look at the different reviews on those things, if you can find one, absolutely buy it, dude. Those are some of the best sport touring bikes around. And obviously being Kawasaki, obviously we all know that most of the Japanese bikes they're bulletproof. The transmission is solid, fuel injected, that sort of thing. Yeah, They're light, they're quick, they're agile. Absolutely. Love it. Would love to have one. There was just the fact that I bought, the Triumph that I found last year was a great value. I picked up for $5,000 with just not even quite 6,000 miles on it. So yeah, they're out there, and I've been watching for the last couple of years. I almost scored one, but didn't get one. And so my advice is yes, if that's what you're looking for, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. If I would love to hear somebody else talk about.
You can with the Versa. I mean, Versa 650 is just, if you're looking for something that just do everything and do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's great at that.
I'm a Suzuki guy, so I'm going to give you a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
I like the SV 650 better, but I like twins. I just like twins, and I like the way they sound. My sister's got one, and it's got a really good pipe on it. Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
I love my Ducati twin. I like my Moto Guzzi twin. I like twins. I'm not a Harley guy, but I am definitely, my Ducati is the nicest sounding bike out of any bike I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the Terminoni exhaust on it. It's chipped. It's got more torque than a John Deere tractor. I just open the throttle in first gear, it'll flip over instantly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to touch the clutch. But and I like the Versas. I like Suzuki's. I've had one Kawasaki. I had the Z900, the A&W one, 1973. I had that, and it had a hinge in the middle. Terrible handling bike, but the motor was bulletproof. And Kawasaki's have good motors, good trannies. I mean, they're good bikes, but I'm a twin guy.
Yeah. Great song. I do agree with the SV spec with the 19 XT version.
Yeah,
that's
bike.
just
yeah.
So
there you go.
What if you had the choice, Honda Africa or Kawasaki 650? What would you?
It depends. Are you looking for a strictly on-road type of thing? Because the Africa gets you off-road.
Yeah.
But the Kawasaki's, you look at the width of the tires and things and the suspension. If you're looking to do any off-roading, Africa's the way to go. But if you're going to stay on pavement, then go with a Kawasaki.
Yeah. The Africa is an automatic too, isn't it? The twin. It's an automatic too. So you want to be shifting gears. If you don't like to shift, you can, it's got an automatic transmission. I like to shift gears. I like everything. I like to do everything. I don't like CV carburetors. I like the old ones that you just threw wide open and it went because you went and fucking threw it wide open. I like that. I'm the guy that's running the show here, and I don't want to CVs. And my Ducati's my first fuel injected bike. I don't know. I like carburetors. I like to fiddle with my bike, and the new bikes are getting more and more where you can't even touch them.
Yeah.
So I like the old stuff.
But see, the thing with the Africa, you would think that it's a really good off-road bike, but when you're off-road and you're climbing something, you really want a clutch to have that control. And
I don't know, maybe,
off-road, they are actually quite nice. Traction controls all. The only thing is, it takes a rider that maybe not so good at that and makes them better at it, because it just takes away the need to actually worry about the clutching. I would say if you're going to do any sort of gravel roads even gravel roads, the Versa is really a street bike. It's really made for like adventure road. The Suzuki SV 650 is definitely almost in between the Versa and like in the middle of the two.
I appreciate that answer, guys. That's just wanted to hear what you guys would have to say about the Kawasaki, because I've been kind of tinkering with either that or the Honda, and it's there's so many great bikes out there. It's hard.
The Kawasaki is just like, it's a nice bike, like it's good, but it's not great at.
It's not great at what?
Exactly.
It's
not great at
it's
anything.
not great.
Oh,
one thing. It's just a good bike
all around. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so if you needed to go through like a field, you could do it on the Kawasaki.
Oh, shit. You could do it on a cow or a horse. You
You
don't need a bike.
you
You're
can't
just
do it on
gonna-
you can't do it on my VTX 1800. I went
I've
over
had my,
I
yeah,
went over
can
my
go-
little a little you know, what is it called, the little road bumps, and it's scraped.
Pothole?
berm.
I was
berm.
like at first gear, it's scraped already, and you can't do it on that one.
Versus could
If you're gonna
handle
go,
crap,
if you're gonna
but if
go
you-
around the world on a motorcycle, then you get a DR 650 because they're
Yeah.
simple and you can fix them.
DRC.
And you
With
don't
a
have,
rock.
and they're not complicated. You don't want anything with a computer because a computer's gonna go south on you. That's it. You might as well stay there for a year waiting for parts.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want
Yep.
something simple. If you're just gonna be in touch with your cell phone and you're gonna be able to phone your tow truck and get help,
Yeah.
you know, and then you can get anything you want, you know. But if you're gonna be riding, doing some gravel roads and stuff, you're better off with the Suzuki. If you're gonna stay more on the pavement, then the Versa is fine too. That's a good bike. The Kawasaki makes a good bike. They're a good bike. So it's up to you.
I appreciate that, guys, and well, I guess that's 1 hour went by. I had a great time talking to you guys. I'm gonna have these meetings like every week is my plan, every Sunday. So if you guys want to be a part of some other ones, you know, you're welcome to.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. It was good to see
Just-
China and Ted in Chicago, the Windy City.
Nice, yeah, indeed, great having. Thanks for having me, guys. This was great hearing your stories. I love networking with people and hearing their stories and what they've done. So until
Yeah.
next time, all right, guys, have a great week. Thanks
Thanks,
much.
Ted. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for China. Keep